Hello, fam. How the hell are you? I hope you are doing well. It's time for our every other week YouTube stream, hangout, chat, blah blah. See how it's going. I'm just gonna let the chill vibes roll. I think I like this playlist. So let me switch over because you guys haven't seen the new model yet. This is the new model. Ta-da! What do you think? You like her? You guys are goody. Excellent. I'm glad you guys are good. There is such a delay on this for me, much more than there is on Twitch, but yeah, this is the new model. She's looking good. I got my little Arthur on my shoulder. Yeah, this one is a little more what I actually look like, so that works out. Yay, new model. Thane, thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah. Imagine how delighted I was when my childhood nickname turned out to be like the internet scream. I love it. I love it so much. Anyway, I think I'm gonna put a hat on. This girl needs a hat. Let's do pink beanie because it's cold outside. Okay, so yeah, this is our hangout. I'm not going to play anything this time. I did that last time we hung out. I'm going to try and alternate. Every other time I'm going to do like a game thing, and every other time I'm just going to hang out with you guys, do like a little Q&A, that kind of thing. So it's been 3 years since you watched something from this channel. Welcome. Welcome back. That is a delay. Yeah, it is a delay. That's okay. YouTube is not a great streaming platform. It's okay. Finneghini, thank you for the super chat. Continuing the ease. What a fun thing to continue. Yeah, it is real cold here. It's winter in Australia. So, doesn't look like it's going to be warming up any this. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the weather. Let's see real quick what the weather is today. It is 11 out right now, Celsius, but it is raining. Feels like 9, okay. And our houses do not have heating or insulation. It is amazing to me when I look in like the Australian subreddits how many people complain about the cold here, like people who are from Canada and the UK and proper frigid areas saying they've never been as cold as they are in an Australian winter purely because there's no protection from it. So, yeah. Okay, very hot in the Midwest. Yeah. I used to live in the Midwest. That's where I was born. And it's not a pleasant place for weather extremes, honestly. Okay, so, we already had a question. Apple, I think you had a question. Yeah, I was wondering if you could share some tips and tricks about making and editing videos for someone interested in starting their own ASMR channel. Okay, so, a couple of things I will say. Like, there's really no wrong way to do it. If there's something you really want to do, you don't have to. I would say do not buy expensive equipment right away, first of all, because you don't know if you're going to like it. And so many people just dump thousands of dollars into gear before they even know if they can do this thing, and it's not worth it. When I started, I did, I had like a $20 mic, a $20 mic with no pop filter. I do all of my audio editing in Audacity, which is free, so definitely get to know Audacity. Is an amazing program. You can do a lot of really cool effects with it. All of the stuff you hear, like robot voice effects, phone effects, things like that, I do all of that through Audacity filters, so you don't have to get super cool shit for that. Just use that. There's a lot of really great repositories of free sound effects and stuff out there. You just have to know where to look, because again, there are subscription services that will let you download assets and use them. A lot of them are pretty expensive though. I like Freesound. Freesound.org, I think, is a great place for Creative Commons sound effects, and you can sort by Creative Commons 0, which means absolutely no attribution required. You do have to wade through a lot of shit there, but it's worth it when you find like really good sound effects. So I built a good library of sound effects without having to pay for it by doing that. Free PD is a great place for music that you can use for anything. Kevin MacLeod basically lives there, so if you've done this for any length of time, you know who Kevin MacLeod is, and his shit is very recognizable, but that's not a bad thing. I use Lightworks for my video editing. That one is not cheap, and also, how can I put this? They're a strange breed at Lightworks. If I need to switch my license from like this, if this laptop craps out, I basically have to rebuy the software. They really don't let you like move it if possible. Like there's been a couple times where once they accidentally double charged me because I'd had to buy it for a new machine and somehow the cancellation for the old one didn't go through, and they did me a favor, but like honestly, according to their TOS, they don't have to do shit. And but I like Lightworks. I'm comfortable with it. Lupus uses Premiere Pro. And everything else I do is in Adobe, so I probably should get better at Premiere Pro. I just haven't had a lot of motivation to. And Adobe is, like Creative Cloud is a monthly subscription thing, so you can just use, like I subscribe to Photoshop, so I can do my thumbnails and stuff. I subscribe to Adobe Stock, so I can access like background images for the thumbnails. Premiere Pro, because Lupus and I share that, I just don't use it. What else? Substance Painter, but that's more for him. That might be it. So yeah, you can pick and choose which apps you want on that one and just, pay for them a la carte, which is nice. As far as the actual like doing of the channel, a couple of things I will recommend there. One, where possible, use your own scripts if you like to write. There are free scripts out there you can access, but there has been drama in the past with people making their scripts available and then later retracting that availability and saying, never mind, you can't use my stuff, which makes it very problematic copyright-wise. I'm one of those people that has to sort of have control over all of my assets. So aside from the fact that I like to write and I'm a writer by trade, I also vastly prefer not having to worry about where my stuff comes from. So my thumbnail art is all paid for. None of that is free sourced art, because that's something you want to be careful about. Thumbnail art, there was a lot of drama, again, in the community not that long ago, because a lot of those so-called free art websites were actually stealing a shit ton of art from actual artists. And also now you have the issue with AI art, and I use air quotes around the word art for that. So even though a site says, oh look, all this art on the site is free, if it's good and it's free, it's probably stolen, I'll be honest. So I either commission my art directly from artists, and I started doing that before the AI thing kicked off, so I'm pretty confident the artists that I'm using are actually drawing the stuff themselves. Or I source it from like Adobe Stock, where I look for those AI tags and try to avoid them if I can, if they let me. But yes, do be careful with art. You should also always credit your artist, even if you commission. The art on my thumbnails is paid for, so it's mine, and make sure you get a commercial license if you plan to be monetized, because there is a big difference between using someone's art for personal reasons and commercial reasons, and I always make sure I ask them to include a commercial license when I commission art. Sometimes that does cost extra, which is fine, that's how it works. But so get that, and then I also make sure to put in the description a link back to the artist as a credit, because even though I own it at that point, I still want to make sure, credit where credit is due, kind of thing. And then again, with the script, same thing. Like I prefer to write my own. It's also good to write your own if you can, because then you can write it in your own voice and make sure that it's in a cadence that you're comfortable speaking. I know, though, that most VAs do not write their own scripts, certainly not for every audio. They might do for some, and that's okay. I still do now, almost 4 years in. Like I said, largely because I like writing and also because I like to control my content. But that's a you do you situation, as long as you're aware of the potential fallout from that. Other than that, I would just say, like I said, get a cheap mic and just find a quiet place. Usually inside a closet is the best place to record, because there's no vents and there's a lot of like fabric, a lot of clothes to help muffle the sound. You don't need to get a bunch of those like sound deadening squares. They don't actually work for soundproofing. All they really do is stop the reverb. I've actually got some in front of my desk right now, It takes a little bit of the edge off the reverb, but it's not a soundproofing technique, so don't really bother with those. And then yeah, just make sure you clean up your content. There's a lot of content out there that sounds like somebody recorded it in a wind tunnel or with a smartphone, and that's fine, but like, the tools exist. Audacity, run a couple of like noise reduction passes on your content before you even start going through and doing the minute editing. That's what I do to get all of that ambient air noise and stuff like that out of there and keep it clean. But yeah, I mean, I hope that answers your question. I know that was a lot of the tech side of what I do, but if you're asking more about like what kind of content to make and stuff, I can answer that too. It's just, you know, for me, starting out is a lot more about like what to get and how to do it. So, okay. That was a lot. I'm sorry. I tend to go off on tangents. But yeah, if you have any more questions, definitely, this is the place for it. This is the Q&A format. So if there's stuff you want to know about how this works, how this job is jobbed. How am I doing with the Patreon goals? We hit 300 patrons. Yay. So I'm exhaling a little. I'm unwinding just a little bit. I'm still hesitant because, you know, traditionally when we do hit those goals, they immediately start trickling out again. And that's, you know, I get it to a point. Like some people just want to help in the short term. That's totally okay. I'm just trying to maintain. I'm trying to do the things and provide the perks and stuff that will make people want to stick around. That's the goal. And I did get, I mean, you guys, if you'd read any of the comments and some of that stuff, I did get some pushback from people who said things like, well, I don't want to support your Patreon because I don't have time to access your Patreon content and therefore I'd be giving you money for nothing. And it's like, no, you'd actually be supporting the channel. Like you'd be making this possible. Like it supports all of it. But you know how it is. People get something free on YouTube. They really don't feel like, honestly, a lot of times they don't feel like it has value. Like they want it, but they don't want to support it or pay for it like they would a streaming service or something because it's there. It's free. Why should I have to pay for that? And I get it. That's the YouTube model. You know, we are sort of trained to take what YouTube offers and not have to give anything back. And that's totally fine. Like I do that with many channels. I support some channels that I can, and a lot of them I just enjoy without, you know, when we were dog sitting a couple of weeks ago, I went through so many of those like anti-anxiety dog videos where it's like a 10-hour loop of watching a dog run on a beach with like calming music in the background. And not for a second did I think about like supporting that. I should have probably, as much time as I spent, and I might go back and do that soon, but like, I get it, I guess is what I'm getting at. So, do Patreon and YouTube memberships. Okay, so the YouTube membership thing I did look into briefly. When they launched that, they sent me a message about it. The only reason, I actually have it set up, it's just not activated. The only reason I haven't activated it is because I couldn't think of anything I could offer YouTube members that would be different from the Patreon, I suppose. Like I was trying to think of, okay, well, different perks, you know, something that if you're going to do Patreon and membership or something like that, what would you get out of it? And I really couldn't come up with much. And I don't want it to be again, the whole like something for nothing thing. Obviously it's not, it's supporting the channel, but I'm still all about perks. Like people, you guys just watching the content and liking and subscribing and all that, that helps tremendously. The people who support monetarily, that's like above and beyond, and I'm super grateful for it, and I want to make sure that you get more for it than just the content, if that makes sense. Like, I know some people are just there to support the content, and I'm so grateful, but there's a part of my brain that's like, no, I have to give them everything, please. Like, what else can I give you? What else? And so, yeah, so just trying to come up with things that I can give that are going to make it worth your while. And like I thought about maybe having member only hangouts, like this kind of thing, but just for members, which I could do that. I could slide another thing into my schedule. I don't know, it hasn't really, I haven't thought of enough things that would make it special, and I don't want to overlap too much with the Patreon perks, because then people that do both would either be getting, you know, double things they don't want, or just the same thing they already got. So yeah, Do I prefer a larger donation all at once or smaller donations over time? Honestly, that depends. I feel like, I mean, they both have a lot of value. You know, people that support over time in small amounts, like that's the Patreon model, obviously. Like that's what you're supposed to do on Patreon. Some people don't. Some people come in and like they join and then they immediately cancel, so they get charged once and then, you know, they're gone. Patreon is supposed to still unlock whatever perks they unlocked for that month once they sign up. Even if they cancel within that month, they're still supposed to have access to things like the Discord and stuff like that. I know my Discord and Patreon have occasionally not played nice. Same with Twitch. There's a handful of people that I have to re-add manually every month because whatever, it's glitchy. But yeah, that the Patreon model, and they also encourage that with the merch. So there's merch on Patreon starting at, I think, the $10 level for me. And that doesn't cost the patron anything extra. That comes out of my side of it. But it is meant to encourage that sort of ongoing support because it doesn't kick in until you've been supporting for like 3 months. And once you've supported 3 months, then you get shipped like a sticker or a t-shirt or a mug, which I think is what because I designed special merch just for Patreon that says like patron on it and has my logo and stuff like that. Just to sort of, like I said, sweeten the pot. And again, that doesn't cost the patron anything extra. If they're already supporting at that level, they're going to get that thing, whether unless they say they don't want it, because that's an option, you can opt out of it. And again, that just comes out of my side, so it doesn't cost them anything at all, which is nice. I love that. It's supposed to encourage that ongoing support. Let's see. But yeah, the large donations are good too. Obviously, it's a personal preference thing. Like whatever people are comfortable doing. The regular small contributions, like the Patreon model, that is more reliable for the creator for like a month-to-month like planning element. Like I compared Patreon to Twitch. I love Twitch. Twitch is a great streaming platform. I use it all the time. I think I stream 5 days a week on Twitch. So if you don't follow me on Twitch, definitely do because, yeah. That said, Twitch is very feast or famine. Some months are super great. You know, some months are super great support, and some months no support because Twitch doesn't require, much like YouTube, doesn't require anybody to pay anything to consume the content if they don't want to. So Patreon is this sort of regular, like it varies month to month. Obviously, if the number of patrons dwindles, that varies. But it's a slower bleed out as opposed to Twitch, where literally from 1 month to the next, it might drop by more than half, by more than 2/3, just depending on how people are feeling, people's moods. Thane, thank you for the super chat. Going to sleep because time zones. Cute pink cat. Thank you. You know what? Let's switch hats. We'll switch hats again. I have all these things on a little stream deck now, so I can toggle things on and off. It's very exciting. So yeah, stream emotes and member streams. Yeah, that if there's a way for me to add my own emotes, because I have a shit ton of emotes and I love them. I love them on Twitch. That's one of the things I love the most about Twitch is my emotes. If there's a way to port those over to YouTube and make them usable for you guys, I'm gonna figure out how to do that. So, let's see what else. A little behind the scenes. Yeah, I do a monthly ramble on Patreon where I do talk about, you know, the stuff that's in the works, the stuff I'm planning, sort of a state of the state kind of thing. I do that. I don't really have, as far as like behind the scenes, like visuals, there's really not a lot. It's my laptop and my desk and my ghetto setup, as Lupus calls it. And I might try and do some little like walk around videos. I've been trying to like think of things that, like obviously I'm not going to do like a face reveal or anything like that, but like, yeah, and I mean, honestly, like my brain is constantly spinning with ways to make things interesting. And I will do polls. I poll people a lot on Twitch and on Patreon and on YouTube and on Twitter, asking you guys what it is you want. And that's where the rambles came from. That came out from a YouTube poll, asking like what would it take for people to actually want to support? Like what would it take to kind of move, like what perk would you want? What reward would you want for supporting the channel? And traditionally, unfortunately, what people say they want and what they will actually do are two very different things. And that's just very, very common in marketing, just in general. people will say, oh yeah, do this thing, I will definitely support that. And then when you do the thing, they don't support it. And that's okay. It's like, it's what they think they want. But when the time comes, it's like, asking people a poll about the environment, but then at the end of the day, are they actually going to do anything about the environment? Probably not. So, let's see. Sorry, I'm scrolling back through chat to make sure I don't miss anything. A private stream every month. Yeah, if I were to do YouTube membership, and I'll take another look at that. I did look at it when it first came out and decided that it was basically Patreon light and it wasn't worth pushing another membership option on you guys. Because again, I also don't want to be invasive about it. I don't want to, as much as this is my job and as much as I cannot do it without support, I also don't want to be one of those obnoxious creators who starts every audio with, hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. And I completely understand the ones that do. There's a few creators that I watch who do that. And they also have mid-roll ads. They take that shit out every time. They have end ads. I don't even put end ads on my audios because if you're asleep at that point, I don't want to wake you up with a loud ad. So even though most of my content is not made for sleep, I know you guys tend to fall asleep a lot when you're listening to it, and that's fine. I have a very relaxing voice. I'm used to it. I had an ex once, we were long distance, and I would talk his ass to sleep every night on the phone. Like, I would just talk to him until he passed out, and then I would hang up. So, yeah, like on purpose, I would like walk him through meditation and stuff, and he would just be out like a light, which was great. Like, yeah, happy to do it. But I then don't want you to have suddenly an ad for like your local grocery store pounding you in the face, waking you up. So I do not do end ads either. Doesn't mean YouTube doesn't occasionally stick them on there, but where I have a choice, I unclick that box and try to keep the invasiveness to a minimum. Because again, I don't want to lose the integrity of the channel. I don't want to paywall my content. I don't want to make it, like most of the perks I try to come up with have nothing to do with the content itself, because I don't want it to be like that. That's the core of the channel. The content is the core. Putting that stuff out there for you guys to enjoy and relax to and just sort of escape into is the point. And I don't want that to be something that is pay only. I don't ever want it to be, you don't get this content if you don't give me money. So the perks are generally not related to that. The perks are more like, hangouts, access, things, helping me choose games, things like that, merch, whatever I can come up with that's fun and rewarding, but isn't going to paywall the content itself, at least not for long. Some of it does get paywalled, the Patreon-only content for sometimes 6 months at a time, but eventually it usually makes its way to YouTube. So that's kind of like at the core of it, that's my model, is that I don't want it to be something that you have to pay for, and I don't want it to be something that is more ad than content. I don't want the point of the channel to be getting supporters. I want the point of the channel to be making content for you. So slide another thing into my schedule. Okay, Angie, you've seen my schedule. I posted it. There's a few empty slots in there. There's a few. So yeah, let me scroll back down. How to deal with slow growth on YouTube. Yeah, it's a grind. I will say that. It is an absolute grind. In my case, I started it as just a hobby. I didn't really have any aspirations for it to go anywhere. It was 3 or 4 months before COVID hit. Well, it was September of 2019, and COVID, I guess, really hit in March of 2020. So 6 months, let's say. And I was just I'll be honest, I was at the end of a bad relationship. I was looking for things to do that would sort of give me a voice. I didn't really feel like, I just kind of felt lost. I felt lost in my job, lost in my life, didn't have a lot of direction. I started listening to other VAs. I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. I started writing scripts for those VAs. They really liked my scripts. And then I just decided to do it myself. And to this day, I'm not sure why. I have no idea why. And I just, for a while, I put out an audio every day. Like the first couple of weeks, I was putting out something every day. I don't know why. I don't know what was pushing me that hard. I guess I was having so much fun with it. And I was, tweaking things and learning Audacity and, all kinds of stuff. It was dark times, those early days. And then the first vampire roommate happened. And that was just meant to be a silly little one-off, and that shit just popped off. And sometimes that's what it takes to have just something just pop off and suddenly your channel grows. But I will say it is very, the algorithm is not kind. YouTube's algorithm is not kind. I have months where I'll have, 1,500 new subscribers in a month. The last few months, I've been lucky to get 150 new subscribers in a month. So it varies so much, and there's no way to really game it because they're constantly tweaking it. And I'll occasionally do polls and be like, hey, if you're already subscribed, do you even see my content in your feed? Is it even in your recommended? And a lot of times it's not, and I don't know what to do about that. And what really gets me is that when I click on my analytics, YouTube will say something like, people aren't clicking on this one as much. We're not sure why. And it's like, I think I know why, YouTube. It's because you're not showing it to them. You're not putting it in their recommended. But, other than that, you just have to be patient. You have to put out content. I will say this, Google, the parent company, their algorithm, Google is very much based on unique content. If you want Google to like you, you must produce unique content. And generally speaking, because I used to work in more direct, like Google type marketing, AdWords and things like that. And the long tail stuff can help you turn up in a search if people are searching for that specific thing. So for example, if you own a bed and breakfast in Tahoe, let's say, you don't want to bid on a Google AdWord like travel because that's way too vague and it's way too expensive and you're a small company. You don't have those kind of resources and people aren't looking for you specifically. What you want to bid on is stuff like Lake Tahoe, travel, bed and breakfast, stuff like that. That's more specific to your niche. That's called long tail marketing. And so you're targeting people who are searching specifically for what you have to offer. Those AdWords are a lot cheaper. Obviously, there's a lot less traffic for them, but people that are looking are probably looking for you. So the same kind of goes for, whatever unique content you're creating. If you're creating a specific kind of content, be as specific as possible about it. Don't try to be vague. And then also time-wise, Google likes once a week. If you post less than once a week, Google tends to punish that by not putting it as high in rankings. So once a week is the minimum in general. Again, the algorithm changes constantly, but for as long as I have done work with Google, once a week is the minimum to qualify for, quote unquote, unique content that is crawlable by their bots, basically. So bye, NG. Have a good one. Sounds like a good idea to advertise at the beginning. Okay, so I will be, I have created, my little intro on the video that's got the little logo that blooms? I have added to that at the end of the intro, before the audio actually starts, there's a few more seconds of video, which is just a little pop-up of my logo and a little thing to remind people to click subscribe. It just makes a little clicking sound. It doesn't speak. And then there's a little harp, and the Patreon link appears on the screen. It's just a little da-da-da. It's not super invasive. It's meant to slide, seamlessly not seamlessly, but relatively not jarringly from the intro into the audio, with a little stop over there for a reminder to subscribe and check out the Patreon. So that's there now. You will see that starting next week. I don't think I put it in this Friday's. This Friday's audio is one of the former Patreon-only audios, so I don't think it's in that one. Don't think so. But starting next week, you should see it. I'm trying to remember. I do some things pretty far in advance, so I'm trying to remember what was added before whatever, but yeah. Because I just created that video, that add-on to the intro video, God, how many days ago? 5-6 days ago? I don't know. Something like that. Time is a construct. And I don't know what weekends are, so why is my arm doing that? That's so weird. Okay, so that will be there. So look for that. And then let's see. Teamed up on Superstar Experience. Hey, I remember Superstar Experience. Hey, Cole, how are you? This is one of the downsides of doing this kind of work, is that you can do collabs with people, but you've never met them or actually spoken to them ever, because everybody is in their own little silo. Everybody gets their script, records their lines, turns it in. Somebody puts it all together into a finished product, and none of us have left our closets. We're all just sitting in there. So this is the one thing I get a little like jealous of Lupus for, because when he does his RP stuff, he's in VR chat, he's interacting with other people. It is a cast and it is a live action, like bouncing off each other kind of vibe. I don't do that. All of my shit is scripted and isolated. So it's a little bit lonelier. I'm not going to lie. It's lonelier. And it's also in some ways reassuring because it's a lot more controlled. But now that I'm doing the D&D stuff with him, I get to dip my toe a little bit more into that, interacting with people, RPing a little bit. I'm not a huge RP person. I like scripts. I like having control. But I'm getting better. I'm not sure I'm ever going to get into like the VR chat RP kind of world. It's not really my vibe. I wasn't a theater kid. I just wasn't. I like to be behind the scenes. I like to not stand out, if that makes sense. Even in the small RP stuff I'm doing for D&D, like my character is so withdrawn and so quiet, and that's by design, that's her backstory, but like it would be more challenging, I think, for me to play somebody crazy and boisterous and in your face, because it's just not my vibe, you know? I'm easing into it by playing somebody that's a little bit like myself. So, that was louder than I meant it to be. If I were to get $10,000, then what, go crazy? I mean, everybody would go crazy if you hand them $10,000, right? They lose their shit. Nature rambles? Yeah, I thought about that too. I need to get, see, this is the other thing. I don't really have a camera that's equipped for taking video. I've only got my phone, but I could do some little short videos maybe. Of just like, because we do go for a lot of walks, and when we walk in the preserves where the kangaroos and stuff are, it could be fun. I've taken some short videos before. Yeah, it's definitely on my list. It's something that we've talked about, because we're also going camping again probably in the next couple of months, and we have talked about potentially introducing like a vlogging type of vibe where we just take some nice peaceful video and even talk a little bit over it too, tell you guys what's going on and what we're looking at. So like one of those chill videos like people do. It's on the list. Like I said, I don't really have a camera that's suited for that, since I've never really needed it. I mean, I do have a good DSLR, but it's back in Florida, so I can't really use that. And then it's also pretty old, so I'm not really sure I'd be able to handle the kind of things we're talking about. And I don't want to invest in a bunch of equipment if it's not something we're going to make a regular thing of. So, yeah, I'll definitely look into it. At the very least, I could probably make some short, videos with my phone, kind of walking, peaceful type stuff. And I can put those on Patreon if that's something that you guys want on Patreon. I guess that's, like, if we do end up making it a thing and making longer ones, we'll probably put it on our YouTube channels. But, okay. Let's see. Notifications on my phone, but not on my computer. Yeah, YouTube be YouTube. Let's see. Business advisor. Yep, it do be me. Ever considered narrating audiobooks? Yeah, I'm definitely on board for stuff like that. I used to do, in my previous life, I used to do the voiceovers for corporate videos for the company that I worked for, like instructional videos on how to file your taxes and how to choose payroll software and shit like that. So I do have some experience with that. That's not fun stuff, but it's, someone's got to do it. Like, someone has to narrate videos, right? And as far as audiobooks, the thing is, the voiceover and voice actor space is very, very, very saturated. There's a lot of people who think they can do it, and a lot of them are right. Their voices are different, but they're not bad. If you can speak fairly clearly, if you can speak without stumbling over your words, you can enunciate, and you have a passingly pleasant voice, you can do this job. It's not that difficult. It's important to be cognizant of where you are in space, how close you are to your mic, things like that, but those things are learned. It's practice. And then you just talk. It's not a super complicated gig. And I remember when I was really little, and I told this story before, but when I was like 7 years old, I was always the kid in class that was given the job of reading the list of class names if we had like a pageant or when we made our first communion, because I was Catholic, or like the Thanksgiving parade or something like that. I was the one assigned to stand up front at the podium and read everybody's names because I could say their names clearly and accurately and not fuck it up. So I was given that job. And it's funny looking back now because I'm like, oh, now that makes sense. But at the time I was just like, oh, I'm the one that can read the best, I guess. I'll just do this. So, but yeah, if you can do that, it's a job, it's doable. But there are so many people. Like every time I see any sort of casting call of any kind, there's a million people turning out for it. And people have these really nice produced demo reels and stuff, and that's great. But it's a lot. So you've got to be prepared for a lot of rejection if you're trying to get into a space where you're doing like actual, like you're not controlling it like your own channel, but you're actually auditioning for things or trying to do audiobooks, things like that. I would definitely be open to something like that if the opportunity arose. I don't really know. There's also, if you're interested, there's also a service called, I think it's called Learning Ally, which basically is a place where you can read content, like basically record audio content of written stuff, like books and magazines and whatnot, for the visually impaired to listen to. So it's not paid, it's like a volunteer thing, but you can sort of hone your craft by doing that work, basically, so that content can be then translated to audio format for people to listen to. I think it's called Learning Ally, but I'm not 100% sure. I was involved with them a long time ago, so it's been a bit. But that's an option too if you want to do it just for funsies and get some practice in. And I'm not entirely sure what their onboarding is like in this day and age, but it's worth looking into if it's something you're into. But yes, the short answer is I would be happy to do audiobooks and stuff like that if the opportunity presented itself. I'm not in a position right now to actively chase down those opportunities. If I see an audition or something, I might go for it. I have auditioned for a few things in the past, but like I said, the competition is crazy fierce. So what I'd probably end up having to do is, get an agent and really, really push hard into that commercial space, which I'm not probably in a position to do right now. But once I get more settled with my visa here, once I'm more established here in Australia, and I have because once I start my visa process, I can start working in Australia as opposed to just being an American who happens to be working for American companies in Australia, because that clears a lot of hurdles for me to pursue other opportunities here in Australia and also not have it be weird for potential employers, even if I'm a contractor, which most voice stuff you're going to be a contractor for, and you got to maintain your own tax liability and shit like that. You'll get something called oh, no, I don't want that, Java. Go away. There you go. A 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation. Otherwise known as we didn't take taxes out of your paycheck, so you have to do it now. For the Americans, I realize this isn't going to make sense for anybody who's not American, but yeah, that was a long way of explaining that. But yes, I would be open to doing something like that once I get my visa stuff settled and there's no question about where and when I can work. First time dropping in, I love your audios. I'm so glad. Really, really glad. Let's see. Show you more hats. Okay. There, different hat. The different perks from having scripts and just doing ad-lib stuff. Yeah, okay. I'm going to strongly recommend that where possible, you write scripts. Ad-lib is not as easy as you think, and the problem is it shows. There's a lot of people doing, some people are better at it than others, don't get me wrong. Some people are very, very good at ad-lib, but that takes a lot of practice. If you're just starting out, or if you're just, unfamiliar with the space, ad-lib is really difficult because it is disjointed and it tends to involve a lot of really long, awkward pauses, which you can edit some of that out in post, but that gives you a lot more work to do on the back end that you don't necessarily need in addition to all the other shit you need to do on the back end. So I'm a big fan of scripts because you can write them in your voice. You can write them in the cadence that you speak. When I write a script, it's always in my own voice. It's always in my own cadence. And when I lay that shit down, it's one take. And it's fast. If I was ad-libbing, I'd be sitting in my closet, meandering, trying to think of the next thing to say. And it tends to not be as coherent. Like, even if you're, especially if you're trying to tell a story, like, oh, I'm the villain, I'm the bad guy, and I'm going to start monologuing. And it makes no fucking sense because you're not following a clear path. You're just sort of trying to take yourself down it. And we're all super confident that we can get there in the end, but like, it's just not as good. It's not as clean. It's not as coherent. It tends to be a lot more meandering. It tends to be a lot more long pauses. And in the end, you probably would have had a much stronger product if you just told the story first and then recorded it. You know what I mean? Like, in all ways, it tends to be the stronger path, especially if you're telling an actual story. If you're just doing like a relaxation, oh, come here, sweetie, sit next to me, let me rub your back. Like, you could probably get away with ad-libbing that, especially if you have a lot of sound effects of like shoulder rubbing and stuff like that. But if you're trying to tell an actual story with a beginning, middle, and end, and an arc and all kinds of stuff, write that shit down. Do not think that you can just sit there and tell that story, because I fucking promise you it will be better if you write it down first. Like, maybe you're the best ad-libber in the world, but that doesn't mean it's still not going to be stronger if you write it down first. Refine the story first, get it to where you want it to be, get all the plot points you want in there, get all the beats that you want in there, and then sit down and record it. It's so much faster, so much cleaner, saves you so much time on the back end. Cannot recommend enough that you script your shit. I've got more than 600 audios on this channel. 2 of them are ad-libbed. 2. Everything else was scripted. And I don't regret that for a second. It always makes for a stronger story. Okay. Yeah, that's a big thing for me. So, have I tried puppets? No, I have not. Puppets are not my bag. I'm Aussie. I live in Australia. I was born in America. But yes, I guess you could say I'm Aussie. Do I know Guys Skippy? I don't know what that means. Off script me is fun. Off script me is generally fussy and crabby. Scripted me is very, very kind and thoughtful, which I am some of the time, but nobody can be that girl all the time. You know, that's the thing about these girlfriend audios. Nobody can be that girl all the time. It's impossible. Everybody's got bad days. All right. GoPros. Yeah, I have a GoPro. I don't know if I left it in Florida, though. Probably. But I'll look into that. That might be something worth pursuing as well. I think Lupus has one that attaches to his motorcycle helmet, I think. So that may or may not be useful for us. Yeah, I'll look into it. Let's see. Scrolling. Hardest thing for ad-libbers is keeping track of what's been said. Yeah, you will double back on yourself. You will say, oh shit, I forgot to say XYZ. Yeah, just script that shit. At the very least, make bullet points. But honestly, scripting saves some, like, the front end is longer. You have to write that shit down. Writing the scripts is my bottleneck. It takes me longer to write the scripts than it is for any other step in this process. But once it is written, it goes fucking fast. I can record in one take. I can sit and edit that shit, sometimes in under an hour if I'm in a real hurry and there's not a lot of soundscaping. The hardest one to edit lately was the dungeon crawling one with all of Lupus's cameos in it, only because that had like 8 different audio tracks going at once. Because of course it did. Collabs always take a lot of extra time and resources, but I think it's worth it in the end. Okay, let's see. Is the situation improving? I'm not really sure what you mean by that, but I'm doing okay. You're so curious which two? I'll never tell. No, you could probably tell. Bye, Apple. Have a good one. A GoPro shipping a GoPro across the world. I mean, I could put one on my throne, but like I said, it's not, as far as like priorities, it's definitely on the list of things I want to pursue, but it's not higher than like all the other shit that I'm doing right now. So, and yeah, you guys on Patreon, and also, did I post it to YouTube? The August calendar. You guys can see what's coming. You can see all the streams and their schedules. You can see the hangouts. You can see the audio drops. All that shit is scheduled. And then there'll probably also be some off-schedule streams and shit like that as well. So, Skippy the bush kangaroo. I mean, I see a lot of kangaroos, honestly. I see kangaroos almost every day when I go walking and stuff. So, yeah. Hey, Alpha Buck. Patreon levels is still too low. It's manageable now. Once we crossed 300, I was able to exhale a little bit. Again, that is one of those things that I don't really expect to maintain. So my challenge has always been not just the growth of the Patreon, but also maintaining it, you know, because it will grow and then it will just sort of backslide. And what that means on my end is that people are signing up for the Patreon, but they're canceling at a higher rate than they are signing up. So there is growth, but it is canceled out by the attrition. And that's okay. Again, like I get it. It's not something that people can always do. It's not, you know, a high priority. And we already pay for so many things. We pay for our streaming services. We pay for, you know, our necessities, things like this. As far as entertainment goes, you know, we have to pick and choose. And that's totally okay. It's my challenge to try and slow the bleeding. Basically, every time it gets up, I have to try and make sure it at the very least stays there. It'd be great if it kept growing, which again, it's so shocking to me that it didn't grow in tandem with the channel, because I just assumed it would, and that was very naive on my part. Certainly didn't expect the active decline of it. Also very naive on my part, I guess. But yeah, trying to just maintain at the very least, if not grow, is the challenge for me going forward. So, and I'm always open to suggestions. You guys always have good ideas. I always take them into account. Sometimes I try them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it comes down to logistics for me or resources for me, or if it's something that I've tried before and it didn't work. You know, everybody's different, and what people say they want and what they'll actually support, very different things. So it's a lot of trial and error. But that's what marketing is. Marketing is testing, and you have to try things and then give it time to see if those things work. And then you have to try different things and see if that works. And ideally, you're only testing one variable at a time. And ideally, you're giving it months to see if it works. But nobody's got that kind of time, especially when it's your job. So, the innocent girl gone mad audio. It depends on what you mean by that. Okay, so you guys know I don't do yandere in general. I will flirt with it for things like the imaginary friend and the yandere cell phone. But as far as an actual yandere character, no. I won't do like girlfriend chains you in the basement for your own good because she wants to keep you safe kind of shit. I hate it. I've been stalked. I will never do content like that. It's incredibly unhealthy. I know there's a market for it. I know I could probably do really well if I did that content, but I do have standards. Just like I won't do content that's set in high school, and I won't do, you know, heavily abusive content, things like that. Innocent girl gone mad. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I would hope that my body of work indicates that I try to tread with care around things like mental health. And when you say gone mad, I don't know if you mean like goes yandere or just has a mental health crisis. I don't make light of those things. The closest I will get to exhibiting a character of that nature is probably Juniper, the forest witch that I just did like last week. And she's not mentally ill, she's just quirky. But a lot of people in the comments said that she reminded them of the inside of their own head when they have ADHD. And I don't have ADHD, so that was interesting to me. That but it resonated with them because of that, and it made them comfortable to hear somebody speaking in the cadence that they sort of think in, if that makes sense. But again, she wasn't meant to be mad. She wasn't meant to be crazy. She was meant to be interesting and different and colorful. And I like her. I like her so much, actually, that in a couple of days, when the patron-only content comes out over on Patreon, it's another Juniper audio. I just went ahead and did another one because I like her that much. So if you're not a patron already, that might motivate you if you liked Juniper, because, yeah, she's coming back. And then, of course, she'll be back on the YouTube channel as well, but probably not for like 5-6 months. So, yeah. But as far as, madness and things like that, again, I know it's a plot device, it's a character device, it's something that is done, but my experience, my background, my education, my framing of life will not allow me to make light of any sort of mental illness. Can't do it. And I'm not super comfortable using it as an element to motivate a character because of the nature of agency. People that struggle with severe mental illness lose a lot of their agency because of it, and I don't want that to be something that motivates a character in my world. I hope that makes sense. I probably didn't really explain that in the clearest way, but yeah, to me it comes down to like a respect thing. What are some things you would tell people to avoid or watch out for when getting into making audios? Again, avoid. my number one rule for myself is control at every step. So I write my own scripts. I commission my own art. I make sure I get commercial licenses for the art that I commission. I pay for collaborators. When I use other voices in my audio, those people are paid for their work. I control every point at which there could be potentially an issue. Either I make it myself or I make sure to pay for it in a way that releases the rights into my hands. Because one of the number one problems I've seen with people making audios is stealing art or using scripts that they didn't have permission to use, or using scripts they did have permission to use, but then the writer retracted their permission. And again, with the stealing art, I'd like to think that most VAs are not deliberately stealing art. I think most VAs are lazy when it comes to the art. And I'm talking about the people who are doing it wrong, not every VA, obviously, but it's not malice. It's either obliviousness or laziness, that they go to these quote-unquote free art sites and they say, oh man, this anime girl is perfect for my thumbnail. And they don't stop to think that those free art sites are absolutely harvesting art and stealing it from artists and sticking it on their site. Or worse, these people just Google an image and assume that because it's on the internet, it's free, which is so frustrating. Oh my God, you guys, it's the year of our Lord 2023. We have to understand how copyright works, right? Please. You can't just take something off the internet because it's there and say that you can use it for commercial purposes, or any purposes, honestly, but especially commercial purposes. And then they do the whole, credit to the artist in the description. No, you can't fucking do that. The same way that you wouldn't want somebody rehosting your audio content without your name on it and saying credit to the artist and making money off that shit. No. Absolutely make sure that all of your legal bases are covered. Control it where you can. And also, like I said, for me, try to avoid making problematic content if you can. I realize there's a draw for some of that stuff, but for myself, in order to sleep at night, I have to do my best to make sure that what I'm putting out there is not somehow making the world worse. I don't want to model toxic relationships. I don't want to model unhealthy behaviors. It matters to me. It doesn't matter to everybody. And again, I talked before about the necessity of unhealthy behavior as a plot element. Villains exist. Conflicts exist. Those are important. That's how stories are told. Shitty people are the reason why we have stories. They are the bad guys. They are the antagonists. That said, how you frame that content matters. If you frame it as a good thing, if you frame it as this shitty person doing shitty things is actually good, then that's a problem, because you're modeling shitty behavior and not framing it in a way that is healthy. The framing is really everything. So yeah, have your villains, have your, whatever, but make sure that contextually you're not accidentally or on purpose sending a message that this sort of behavior is fine, actually. That's my advice. That, and also, for the love of God, two noise reduction passes on Audacity. Twice. Maybe 3, depending on how noisy your space is. But please, 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 run those noise reduction passes. They make all the difference in the world. Then go in and do your soundscaping. Watch your levels. Like, learning Audacity is really important. Okay. What else? Next to Vampire Roommate Wife audio is actually really liked your symbiote. Okay, so the symbiote. The symbiote actually came out of one of these hangouts, one of these YouTube hangouts, where I let you guys brainstorm different ideas. And the symbiote, I let you guys come down to like four story ideas, and it was like, what character, what scenario, what, whatever. And then we put it on, I think it was Twitter I did the poll on, and you guys landed on, you wanted a symbiote, you wanted the conversation in the bedroom, and you wanted it to be friends to lovers. And I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do with this? So I sat down and wrote that script, and holy shit, did it turn out better than I expected. And then people were like, more symbiote. So I grudgingly did another symbiote. I think it started as a patron only one, that one with the job interview. After that, though, it's starting to get weird. I'm not gonna lie, it's starting to get weird because just the whole nature of the symbiote relationship, like, it's doable, don't get me wrong, but when I get in my head about it a little, I start to kind of skeeve myself out a bit, I guess. So I'm not saying it won't happen. If I think of a good place to take it, again, this is one of those situations where if I come up with a really good idea, if it hits me like in the middle of the night or in the shower or something where I'm like, oh, I know where I could take that, then I definitely will write it and do it. But I'm not going to brute force that one. I'm not going to brute force that content back into existence because it would absolutely suck if I did. And no. Hell no. What's my favorite dessert? Aw, that's like saying, what's your favorite child? Okay, so I do like all things chocolate. Generally, like milk chocolate and white chocolate are my two favorites. But I also really like fruity, like strawberry cream cakes and stuff like that. So caramel's really good. I don't know. You know what got me the other day? We were watching The Office, and it was the episode with the pretzel stand where Michael gets the sweet pretzel with 18 different toppings on it. And then we went and watched the Binging with Babish episode on YouTube where he makes that pretzel with 18 different toppings on it. It's so good. It looks like, it's a mess, but holy shit, man. Like, that looks amazing. I would eat the shit out of that. So yeah. You were there, you witnessed the symbiote being born. Yeah, you guys. That was a good time. We could do another of those. Crowdsourced Mad Libs. It was very like that. You guys just threw out ideas, and then someone would be like, symbiote. Yeah, symbiote. And if a few people were like, that's a good idea, then I would put that one on the list. And then just narrow it down to, it was like 4, 4, and 4 for each of the elements. And you guys voted overwhelmingly for the symbiote in the bedroom with the friends to lovers. And I feel like I know where you were trying to go with that. And no, fuck you. But, have your fun with that. But I think it still turned out okay. I did not hate the symbiote audio at all. I think, and it gives me a challenge. When you guys do shit like that, it gives me a challenge to sort of like, how do I bring this to life? And I've talked before about how with the Olympian patrons, when we do our monthly calls to talk about audios, a lot of times the Olympians have absolutely amazing ideas, but the challenge to me comes down to how do I take this amazing idea and translate it into something that is a one-sided audio with some soundscaping, and in such a way that there doesn't have to be an exposition dump, or there doesn't have to be a very awkward explanation for how this universe works. I want it to be smooth, I want it to flow. So logistically, that tends to be the biggest hurdle, is let me take this wonderful idea that would make a great novel or a great short story and try to find a way to make it into an audio. And sometimes I can't. Sometimes I have to say, look, I'm sorry, like, this is a really cool world that you've created. It's a really cool idea, but there's absolutely no way I can make this an audio. There's just no way, as much as I would want to. But I hope you write this book because I would read it, that kind of thing. So that is always the challenge for me, is that no matter how good the idea is, it has to somehow find its way into an audio where I can get the information to you in a way that is natural in universe and that you can still follow the story and know what the rules are, especially if it's a fantasy or sci-fi situation where there's usually like a shit ton of backstory and like, so here's how the world works. But the expectation is that both my character and the listener's character already exist in this world and already know how it works. So it's not something we would talk about. We wouldn't have a conversation about how the world works because we are living in it and we already know those things. So that is clunky, pointless exposition that is jarring and tends to ruin the immersion a lot. So it's sort of like that thing where people repeat the question when they answer it. I hate that. You guys know I hate that. It's one of my biggest pet peeves with audios. Don't do that, please. For the love of God, please, I beg, if there's anything you take away from this, if you make audios, don't repeat the question back. You don't have to. If the listener is asking, how was your day? You as the speaker don't have to say, oh, you want to know how my day was? You don't have to say that. You can just say, my day kind of sucked. How was yours? Because then you know what the listener asked. It's in the answer. It's built in. It doesn't have to be clunky. It's how people talk. Try to remember how people actually talk. They don't use each other's names when they speak to each other. They don't repeat questions back. They don't explain the rules of the universe that they currently live in to each other as part of a conversation. Like how people speak, natural dialogue. Read it out loud. See if it sounds like how people talk. Have somebody read it out loud and they go, oh shit, that doesn't sound like how people talk at all. Generally, it's good to have somebody else review your shit. I mean, I have my beta listeners looking at you, Halo. And I will send them audios, and sometimes I'm asking them to check like audio levels and stuff, because after I've listened to something a million times, I will completely lose the plot and have no idea what I was hearing. But it's also to make sure that it makes sense, make sure that the universe makes sense, that the story makes sense, that it flows, that it follows, things like that. All right, let's see. Symbiote girlfriend. I don't remember if she has a name, actually. Have I heard of Throne? Oh, yeah. I have a throne. You guys get me stuff off my throne all the time. And you suggest really weird shit, which is currently on my throne. Most of the time, if you guys suggest something, I'll approve it if it makes even the slightest bit of sense. All right, should I switch to the rat hat? I'll switch to the rat hat. We're going to put on the rat hat. The rat hat is from Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a hat made of dead rats. Do not recommend. Okay. Stuck in a Snow Blizzard series. Yeah, that was another one that was not meant to be a series. Most of my good series did not start that way. Most of my good series were just one-offs. Like the point of that one was I wanted the listener to sort of draw their own conclusions about whether they survived the blizzard or not. It sort of trails off at the end. And I thought, okay, well, the listener can say they lived or they didn't live. It's like whatever your headcanon, I'm there for it. But people fucking lost their shit and they wanted a sequel. They wanted more. And it's like, well, there would be no sequel if they died, so I guess they survived. And at that time, I was working on a Coma audio already. So I was like, fuck it, I'll make the Coma audio part 2 of the Blizzard audio. That's how that happened. It was not originally the plan. Worked out that way. Everybody's happy. Blizzard audio goes. And then once they became just a normal couple, that series ended because at that point, they're just a normal couple. They're every girlfriend audio on the channel after that point. There's nothing special about them anymore. The blizzard is over. They've escaped. The PTSD is done. Well, not done, but it's been explored. So, yeah. Now they're just a regular couple. Let's see. Listening more than one vintage would be cringe. That doesn't bother me. I got people who show up and they're like, hey, I just discovered your channel and now I'm going to listen to it all. And it's like, honestly, good fucking luck. Like, I think it's a tremendous undertaking, and good luck to you, because there are just so many. That's really all. I mean, I don't care. Listen to whatever the hell you want. It doesn't bother me. Like, some people, honestly, because I'm the same. If I stumble on a channel, not VAs, because I actually don't listen to audio role plays anymore, partly because I'm so immersed in it, and partly because I don't want to be influenced. But if I stumble on a channel that I do like for whatever reason, I will, like, go hard. Like, I will sit and just watch. Like, there's this guy, his name is Big Stacked, and he's actually here in Western Australia, and he makes videos where he melts down scrap metal and turns it into, like, ingots. And it's completely, like, he doesn't talk, so it's all just, like, basically the sounds of nature outside of his barn and the sound of, like, his forge going and stuff. And he just melts these metals down, pours them into molds, and then occasionally, like, we get to see his dogs. He's got two little French bulldogs named Ingot and Bullion, and they are so cute. And he just vibes, and I cannot fucking get enough of his shit. Like, if I'm just trying to relax, that is what I put on in the background, and I will just let it ride. So if he knew I was doing that, maybe he'd think it was weird, but probably not, though. Like, content creators, we want you to enjoy the content. That's the point. And when somebody new comes along who hasn't found it before, and they're excited that they found it, they're like, oh my gosh, here's something I like. I have found your content, and I am entertained, and I want to consume it. Yeah, consume the fuck out of it. That's what it's there for. Please enjoy. Dive in. Okay. Scrolling. Superhero finds out the villain secretly loves you. Superhuman. I've done several supervillain superhero type. There's the Saving the Superhero, in which my character is also a hero, maybe, question mark, but also maybe not. That's actually one that I'm planning to bring back. That one took 2 years before it got a sequel because I liked the first one so much as it was. That was another one that I was not going to brute force. I got more requests for sequels on that one and the Sentient Mech than pretty much anything else ever, and I resisted for as long as possible because I didn't want to be like, well, this is what people want, I guess I'll give it to them, and write something shitty. I wanted it to be something that I came up with and went, oh, yeah, that's the thing, that's what I'm going to do. So that's out there. There's also several where I play a super villain. One recently where I'm the supervillain who takes care of the hero because the hero tries to attack my base while being incredibly sick. And that's just stupid, so let's get you better before you have an epic fight with me, please. There's the one where I play the henchwoman and the listener's the supervillain. There's a couple of those. That's a little series too. So yeah, there's a few. I dabble in the superhero stuff. It's not something that... Okay, so this is going to circle back around to the storytelling, but I try to be very careful when it comes to the storytelling that if there are supernatural elements, super strength, super speed, vampires, heroes, things like that, that those things are not the driving force behind the story. I want the people to be the driving force. I want the personality of the characters and how they interact with each other to be the important thing. Like the vampire roommate, she's a vampire, but that is not like even the most important part of who she is. You know, that's not, it's relevant, but only in the most tangential sense. Meanwhile, like as the story unfolds, obviously there are a lot of plot points around the listener being an angel and things like that. But again, the core of the story is how these two are with each other, how they take care of each other, how they interact with each other, how they protect each other, and how they make plans to get through all these things that they are trying to get through together. And the conflict with them is never between the two of them. It is always them versus a problem. Because I don't ever want my core characters who are in established relationships, who are working together towards something, toward a goal, a shared goal. The conflict should never be one of them versus the other one. That's not, and just like in a healthy relationship, that should never be the problem. It's not you versus me. It's you and me together against the problem. And we're going to solve it. We're going to fight it and we're going to solve it together because we are a team. That's how healthy relationships should always be. And so I will never have it be where suddenly the listener turns evil and, starts fighting me, which even in that case, it's not that it's us, versus each other. It's us versus whatever element turned the listener evil. But even that seems contrived as fuck to me, I'll be honest. So the conflicts are always external to the relationship, and make them stronger by allowing them to work together, fight together, things like that. The same goes for superhero type stuff. It's like the old question, what's interesting about a hero with no flaws? Nothing. There's nothing interesting about that. And I know a lot of people want to write characters where they are super powerful. God, I see this in D&D so much. Everybody wants their character to be super powerful and can also do this and can also do this and also has this skill and this skill and this skill. And it's like, that is so fucking boring. You need flaws. You need places at which your character can learn and grow and have a satisfying arc. That shit's relatable. Perfection is not relatable. Maybe it makes you feel good as a character to be this all-powerful, strong, smart, amazing thing that everybody's in love with. But you feel like that shit, go watch isekais. Go watch a harem isekai. Go watch some overpowered protag land in a strange world and have every big boob chick in the entire universe throw herself at him. Like, okay, sure. Like, that's wish fulfillment. Wish fulfillment. And that's fine. There's a place for that. But that's not what I do. And I don't feel like in a good superhero story, the powers are the point. The powers are never the point. They're just a facilitator to the point, which is generally human interaction and personal growth. That's the point for me. I hope that makes sense. It's another of my minor pet peeves. All right, let's scroll. An AI that does all those things you hate. I could possibly do something like that for maybe a patron content, like a tongue-in-cheek sort of, because it would be annoying as fuck. Like, it's funny for a second, and then you guys be like, oh god, this really does suck. So I don't want to torture the wider audience, but I'm fine torturing the patrons. You guys like that sort of thing. Okay. Would I hunt down anybody that steals your work? I have in the past, actually. I got a heads up that somebody was basically copying my scripts. He was recording them himself, but he was taking my scripts that I guess he was just listening to my audios and writing down what I said, because I don't publish my scripts anywhere. They're all in like private Google Docs. And then he was recording them himself with a few minor tweaks, but he actually stole the first Blizzard audio. And he stole, I forget the other one, but there were a few that he stole, and they were some of my more notable ones. They were ones that I was really well known for, which was really stupid on his part, because like, if you're gonna steal somebody's shit, make it something bland and unassuming that they're not gonna notice and is just gonna sound like any other content. Like, don't steal somebody's flagship audio. So, and people in his comments were saying, and this guy was actually a patron at the time, so I knew he knew about me. He was a patron, he had sent me messages, and people were in his comments going, this sounds an awful lot like Urban Nymphs, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, wow, great minds think alike, huh? And so I went and listened, and I was like, holy shit, you literally stole my audio. And so I messaged him, and I was like, you need to take this down. This is not your content. And he tried to push back a little bit and said that he wrote it himself. And I'm like, dude, I don't know who you think you're fooling, but you're literally one of my patrons. I've seen you around. I've seen you commenting on my audios. And now you're doing one that's almost word for word the same? Really? Think real hard about how you want to take this. And he took everything down, and I think maybe took down his whole channel as well, because it wasn't just me, he was doing it too. But that shit does happen. I know some VAs find their stuff get rehosted in other places. That does happen too. It's shitty. It's super shitty, and if people do it, we do our best to flag it and get YouTube to take it down. The issue is generally, if there's a violation like that, the person who was stolen from has to be the one to make the official complaint, because they are the copyright holder. So when that happens, if you see my content on a channel that's not mine, please definitely, well, not see, but hear, obviously, because when it happens, usually they make a fresh thumbnail and try to pass it off as their own stuff. Even if it's like an ASMR aggregate channel where it's like, we take content from all over and host it here. None of that has permission. None of that has been done with permission from the artist. So if you see it, definitely let me know. Just drop me a quick ping or something and I'll go file the report. So there is that. It happens. It sucks. But it is, I mean, as frustrating as it is, it's not the kind of thing you can really let go, especially if it's a monetized channel. You definitely don't want to let that shit go. But it's important, not just because of that, but also because it's just the general integrity of the space. You don't want it to become common for people just to be okay with taking stuff that doesn't belong to them. Like, that's never okay. So, all right, let's see. Wow, I'm really far back in the chat. Hold on. Couple breaks up, guy meets her after 4 or 5 months, girl observes he's lost weight, is clearly lost it, realizes how much he loved her, they get back together. I'm not sure if you're suggesting that as an audio idea. I will tell you, again, this feels kind of like when I have my conversations with my Olympians where they bring me an idea and I sort of see it as my my sworn duty to poke holes in it because this is my channel. I, again, with my incredible and occasionally not helpful fixation on healthy spaces and healthy relationships, I'm not super okay with the concept of a couple getting back together because the listener lost weight. I get that it happens. I get that there's real world, basis for that. I don't personally feel very comfortable with that. I don't want appearance, especially weight, to be a factor that motivates whether a couple stays together, whether feelings are genuine. And the concept of like my character seeing a guy and being like, oh, you're the guy I used to date. You're hot now. Oh, I guess you did always love me. Let's get back together. Like, even if it's done in the most earnest way possible, it still feels shallow as fuck, It really does. And I don't know. I can't, my head will not allow me to make that a thing. I can't frame that in a way that my head will allow because it doesn't get to a healthy space in my mind. I cannot get it to a healthy space. It stays in that sort of shallow, like even if they broke up for unrelated reasons, even if they got together for unrelated reasons, the weight loss element makes it feel like that is the motivator for getting back together. And again, I get like it's important to stay fit. Like I do my best to stay fit. I do my best. And it's not because I necessarily want to be hot. It's because I want to be healthy. But like, I get the motivation. Like I know a lot of people who do work out and take care of themselves largely because they want to be hot. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like if you want to be the best version of yourself, fucking go for it. I'm not super okay with judging other people for it though. Like I'm not super okay with that being a motivator for getting back together with an ex. Like if you hadn't included that element, I probably would have been more open to that idea. Like running into somebody that you used to date and realizing there's still feelings there and sort of rekindling. In fact, I think I might have done one or two like that, but not the weight loss element. Like, and I also don't want to frame it as if you lose weight and take care of yourself, you get a reward, and the reward is the girl you always wanted. Girls are not rewards. Partners in general are not rewards. And I don't want to sort of further that narrative that your reward for being a good guy or taking care of yourself or losing weight or being nice or being strong is that you get a sexy lamp. Like that's not healthy either. Like neither side of that feels super healthy. I hope that makes sense. Again, I sort of make it my business to dismantle ideas when I get them because that's the only way I can translate them into something that I can actually use. So, I'm not trying to, well, I guess I am trying to dismantle to a point, but I'm not trying to be shitty about it, I guess. And I apologize if it does come across that way. Let's see. Sentient Mech reminds you of Titanfall. Yeah, I had never played Titanfall, when I did that audio, and every fucking person in the comments were like, Titanfall. So I went and played Titanfall 2 for a New Week, New Game once, and I had a good time, but I can't wall run for shit, and that's pretty important in that game, so yeah. Protect the pilot. Okay. Let's see, where are we? I recently started into the Vampire Roommate series. Normally I wouldn't like vampire audio. Yeah, again, I don't do yandere, and for me the Vampire Roommate, again, the key is not that she's a vampire. The key is that she is living in this world in which vampires and humans have co-evolved along with other races of fantasy and non-fantasy beings. And it's just life. Like, I like to say that when you think about it, if you have a vampire character who lives in the real world, 99% of their day is not spent being a vampire. Like, they're just not sitting around going, wow, I am so vampire today. Like, they're just living their fucking life. They have jobs, they have families, they have, you know, a house that might have a leaky roof they've got to go fix. They've got shoes that don't fit right, you know, whatever. They're just living their best life. And if you exist in this mundane world, which I'm a huge fan of taking fantasy elements and immersing them in the mundane world, then you must play by that world's rules. And that includes having an ordinary, boring day. Like, it's just how the world works. And these two have a lot of adventures despite that. Obviously, there's a lot of elements that fuck with them. But even the oversight agency, the registry, is just painful, bureaucratic bullshit paperwork. Like, because of course it is, because that's how it would be in real life. It wouldn't be some cool shadowy organization where everybody looks like, you know, Mr. Smith. It would be this boring, fluorescent lit, rubber stamp office where nobody gets paid enough to give a shit, you know? Like, that's how it would go in real life. So I do get very fixated on, if these things happened at the same time in the same universe, how would they play out? And that's one of my favorite things about it. How do I incorporate these mundane elements into a fantasy story? Or rather, incorporate these fantasy elements into a mundane story, depending on how you look at it. And I love that. That's one of my favorite things. I'm so tickled by it. So yeah, Vampire Roommate is definitely not a yandere, and they are just a regular, ordinary couple having regular, ordinary couple problems, except for, you know, the stuff that isn't entirely ordinary, but they're still going to complain about it like it is because, you know, they're still people. They're just people. She just has to have blood to live. Okay. She drank our blood twice. Yes. Yep, that's all she gets until it becomes necessary to do it again. Because the registry is still watching, and we can't have that. All right. Post-apocalyptic series. Yes. Post-apocalyptic series is coming back. That one, I have Maple. My friend Maple is a guest star. And he has been very busy. He moved into a new place and stuff like that, so I haven't wanted to lean too hard on him, but I will be dragging Maple back into... Maple and his dulcet tones back into my universe soon, so definitely stay tuned for that. I also need to give Maple plenty of time because he is very perfectionistic, which I absolutely love about Maple. He will give me 3 reads of every line every time. Like, he is just so on point with his line reads, so, which is great, but it just means that I get to listen to them later and go, oh, which one do I want to use here? Oh, which one do, like, there's just, because there's usually, they're all good, so I have to sit there and like parse it myself. So yeah, that makes my job take longer, but it's also fun because it's like an embarrassment of riches. So yeah, it's coming. Let's see. A mini-series sequel pull. Again, like, the reason why the Sentient Mech didn't get a sequel for so long is because I didn't want to brute force it. So if I put that poll out there at the time, people would absolutely have voted for it. They wanted more of the Sentient Mech. They were begging for that. I didn't have that story in me. I had to wait until I woke up one day and went, you know, I think I know how I want to take this, and then do it. Because if I do a poll, then I have to brute force it if it's something that I'm not in the headspace for yet. And then you get a bad audio, or at least not as good as it could have been, you know? So I'm not super comfortable with letting people decide what the next one is in a series, or whether to do a series or whether to do a sequel. I know when people want it, they ask for it. Like, it kind of cracks me up when I release an audio and already in the comments people are going, part 2 when? Part 2? And it's like, I just posted this. Like, this script was done last week. give me a second to write part 2. Like, it's going to take a while, if it happens at all. But it cracks me up because it just means people really, really like it and they want more of it. And that's cool. That helps me to know, like, knowing what you guys want. Your comments tell me that. Like, I read all the comments. I do. And when you guys say, oh my God, I really loved this, or oh my God, I want more of this, I take that shit to heart and I notice. So definitely, if there's something you want more of or whatever, definitely let me know. That said, try not to be that guy who goes into like the Juniper audio, and I don't think anybody did this, I'm using it as an example, but there are people that do this, who goes into an audio and comments, when are we going to get more Vampire Roommate? Like, you will get more. You will have to be patient because I only do so many audios a month, usually 8 to 10. B, some of those audios are taken up by the Olympian patrons, which is fine. That's the point. But if they want to do their own stuff, then I will write the stuff that they are interested in. C, I have to make sure I'm taking the story in a direction that I want to take it in. And sometimes that takes me a couple months to parse. So, Vampire Roommate will probably not end. If it does, it's not going to be anytime soon. So definitely don't worry. There will be more Vampire Roommate. There will be more of most of these series. If a series hasn't been tied up in a neat little bow, like the Kudere Alien, it will probably come back. When it comes back, that depends. And I tend to do them in little mini seasons, like both the Elf Bandit and the Post-Apocalyptic Scavenger had long breaks between their first season and then the newer stuff. And actually, there's probably one more Elf Bandit before another season break, because I've already been writing that one in my head. So stay tuned. But yes, those things will come back. Just hang in there. Okay. Scroll. YouTube just popped me up the thing that says, now would be a good time to insert ads. No, fuck off, go away. And this, guys, is why I'm bad at business. YouTube tells me to insert ads, I tell them to fuck off, and then I go, why people no pay? God, I'm so stupid. I'm a bad business person. Yes, I do use all my own scripts. I write all my own scripts. Because I like writing and I like control. So. Alright, hey Vod. Vod's here. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm scrolling. I was on a few tangents there and missed some comments. So. Wow, I'm so vampire today. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Dragging Maple. I would never drag Maple. He's like one of my closest friends. You're a Nereid? Yay, welcome. Welcome to the Nereids. Yeah, all of my Patreon tiers are named after different nymphs. I thought that was clever, and also the art was public domain because it's like Renaissance paintings. So, again, with the make sure what you're using is public domain. Demon Hunter found a lover. Possibly. There's a lot of demon hunting stuff out there right now, but again, these are things that, unless an Olympian requests them, which then forces me to think about it, a lot of my own thought processes, I like to let them kind of flow a little bit organically because it makes better audios for you. If I have an idea and it flows and it feels like it's going to a good place and stuff, then I can write something that you guys will actually really enjoy. And I will say this, I'm still surprised at how popular Juniper was. I did not expect you guys to like that little forest witch as much as you did. When I wrote her, I was like, I love her and they are gonna hate her. And that just goes to show how little I know my own fan base because, man, you guys really, really liked her. Lupus had you laughing. Lupus's problem is that when he and I are driving somewhere, he'll start doing funny voices and I'm taking notes. Every time he does funny voices, I'm taking notes. And I was like, all right, you want to do funny voices? I have a script for you. And a lot of the scripts where he's a guest star, he helped me create that. He doesn't necessarily help me write the script, but it'll be something that he and I will hash out either just sitting on the couch or driving somewhere, and we'll start talking back and forth about an idea, and we'll start role-playing it a little bit and crack ourselves up and go, yep, okay, this is going to be an audio. The Tsundere NPC was one of those. That was absolutely him and me just going back and forth in DMs, I think, at the time, because I didn't even live here yet. And just being like, what if we did this? What if we did this? Oh my God, that'd be so funny. And then this line and then this line. And so when I went to write the script, I just went back to our DMs and sort of like copied out a bunch of the dialogue that he and I had sort of like generated organically. And that's how you get shit like that, which is cool because then like his contribution makes his part flow better. You know, it makes it easier for him to play, and it also feels more like him and less like me, if that makes sense. So let's see. But yeah, so I really like how those audios turn out. I think he's got a great voice. I think he does really good, like, funny voices. I'm a big fan of Lupus talking, honestly. I could listen to him talk all day. Best way to send you an idea for a script? If you're a patron, you can join the Discord. There's a channel in the Discord called Inspiration Point. And that's a good place to drop ideas for audios, also ideas for games you want me to play, also, you know, any sort of ideas you guys come up with, it's a good place. That said, it kind of depends whether I use stuff or not. Like, obviously, I have the final discretion, and that includes even with the Olympians. If Olympians come to me with an idea, and they say, oh man, I really like to do an audio about blah, blah, blah. If that's something I'm not comfortable with, I'm not going to do it. Like, full stop, not going to do it. So I sort of always reserve the right to veto, even at that level. But then I will help the Olympian talk out other ideas and be like, okay, if not that, how about something else? How about this? What if we tried this? Until we get to a place where we're both happy and comfortable and everybody's, you know, everybody wins. But yeah, ideas are always welcome there. You can also, sometimes people will leave them in comments on the audios. I do see those. If they are very niche or they're very, you know, not really on brand for me, they probably won't happen. I will also say that in general, I don't tend to, because I get a lot of ideas from a lot of different sources. Some of them I take to heart, some I don't. The only ones that I will give like really open credit for are the Olympians, because that's what they're paying for at that level, is to basically be collaborators on a story idea. But that said, if I end up using a story idea that was somebody's incredibly unique and specific idea, and they kind of went out of their way or whatever, and I really, really liked it, and somehow everything converged and the stars aligned and, you know, lightning in a bottle kind of thing, then of course I will definitely give credit for that. So I guess it's the long way to say that, yes, there's a couple of different places you can suggest. There's no guarantee anything will come of it, but that's only because I have a very limited number of audios and I have to be very cognizant of my core competency. Okay. Here for your car's extended warranty. Yeah, I gotta say, part of me was very satisfied stabbing him to death. Spoilers. Pocket Re was another one that you guys sort of bullied me into. And it's cute, but that's another one, just like the symbiote, that the logistics of it start to get a little skeevy in my head, so I try not to think too hard about it. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm caught up on your guys' questions. So if you have more, now's the time. Probably gonna go for another, what time is it? Maybe another 10 minutes. I'm hanging out. This is fun though. I like hanging out on YouTube. It's different. We don't have quite the same interactivity as Twitch. You guys can't like do redeems and stuff like that. But like I said, if you don't follow me on Twitch, you definitely should, because it's kind of this vibe, only even more interactive. And you guys can mess with me more. Make me do funny voices and shit. Okay. This background track, yeah, this is my Chill Vibes playlist. I use it for a lot of chill streams and even when I'm playing chill games. It's a mood. You loved Pocket Re. Pocket Re was cute, but it's one of those things where the more you think about it, the weirder it gets and the more difficult to execute it becomes. Sorry. We can't do, yeah, you guys can't really clip. Well, actually you kind of can, but I don't really know how it works. Like YouTube sent me something about it. Maybe I can clip my own. I don't know. I'm not sure. I know Goober redeems and stuff like that. Yeah. Ever thought of a Giantess audio? I have gotten some requests for Giantess audios. That's one that I've never felt like I'm in a good place to make. Like, there are certain characters that I know there's a call for them. I know people like them. But if I'm not comfortable embodying that character, I can't do it. You know what I mean? Like, even if I write a script for it, if I'm not in a good, like, healthy place for it, it's not going to come out great. And Giantess is one of those. I'm not sure why, but the few times that I've sort of thought about it and tried to, like, play out in my head how that would go, I haven't been super comfortable with it. Maybe it's because it has become such a fetishized thing. Like, for a lot of people, it is very, very fetishized. And obviously, like, so many of my other characters are too. But, like, something about that one maybe is hitting me wrong. I don't know what it is. I don't really want to unpack that with my therapist. I just, if something occurs to me that makes me comfortable with it, like there's a story I can do with it that'll make me feel okay, I might. But so far I haven't. The other one that I'm not comfortable doing myself is werewolf. I'm fine with a listener being a werewolf, but I personally don't feel comfortable playing a werewolf. The closest I'll get is the wolf girl who's also a beautician because she's literally just a normal person with ears and a tail, and you have no way of knowing she's a wolf. Like, it's not, there's no howling or biting or scratching or any of that shit. So, and again, I know there's a call for it. I know for some people that's their cup of tea, and that's totally fine. I personally am just not comfortable with it. So, you know, there's a fine line for me, like giving you guys what you want, giving the audience what you want, but also keeping myself in a safe, comfortable place where I feel okay with what I'm doing, where I'm not exhausting myself with the effort of being okay with what I'm doing, if that makes sense. You know how, like, you fight through something and sometimes you can do it, but you're so worn out at the end of it. Like, you just wore yourself out protecting yourself in that space. It's like that. And I don't want it to be like that. So, yeah. Cybered Man, thank you for the super chat. Oh, that's a pretty rose. I like that. That's really pretty. How is your name? How is your name? Lovely. How is yours? Twitch is also always buffering on your... Yeah, Twitch, it depends. Like, depending on your internet and your connection and stuff. Twitch is, it's up and down. It's been better. It's been better lately, but... A librarian... Oh, I assume you mean librarian, not Liberian. Meeting cute listener. Did I do a librarian one? I'm trying to remember. It's honestly hard for me sometimes. Like, I'll look at my own list of videos and be like, oh yeah, I did do that, didn't I? Like, I'll write a script, voice the script, edit it, upload it, and then move on to the next thing. And sometimes it falls completely out of my brain. And when I go back and listen to it, I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember doing this. But like, there's just too many to remember all of them, you know, which is really weird because you'd think if you do them. But then again, I've got my Google Docs, guys, like every month I start a new script file. Every month it's usually around 80 to 100 pages by the end of the month. Around 15,000 words. And then I start a new file for the next month. I'm about to start August's file. So it just keeps going. And then I never go back and look at them. You know, there's just got this stack upon stack of scripts in Google. And they're all just sitting there month to month to month. I've had you stream in the background for the past hour and it's been really relaxing. You're welcome. Yeah, we're just vibing. Relaxing music, relaxing words. It's a good time. Except for when I clear my throat, and I apologize for that. It's morning here. It's 8:43 in the morning here. And it do be winter, so. But I did take my medicine. I did take my iron pill before anybody asks. You guys that do hang out with me over on Twitch, you tend to mother hen me a little bit, which I appreciate. I do. I like it that you remind me to take my medicine and stuff. I feel like Twitch is like the easiest place to get to know each other as like people. You know, like you guys get to hang out. It's like, obviously the audios are good, but the audios are scripted. And like I said, I'm a very nice person most of the time, but nobody can be like that all the time. Like, nobody can be that girl all the time. So this is more my real self. Twitch is more my real self. I curse. I throw fits when I suck at games. I lose my shit over cute things. You know, it's a vibe, but I like it. According to legend, in part 4 of clearing the dungeon, they find a magical rat hat. Oh god. Well, I've already stabbed Lupus to death, so. Save your scripts in a flash drive than Google. No. Oh my gosh, no. No. Google is, for better or for worse, the safest place to keep my shit because I can access it from anywhere. I don't need a USB port to do it. And flash drives are... They serve a purpose, and I do use them. But I have known more people who either lost one, left one on a train, fell out of their pocket, accidentally crushed it, accidentally broke it, you know, whatever. That shit happens so easily, and I don't want the entirety, like my body of work to rely on whether I can not lose a flash drive. Like, Google for life, man. Okay. I'm gonna take your meds. Yeah, everybody take your meds. Make sure you hydrate. Make sure you sit up straight. Maybe do a little stretch. Maybe do a little stretch. Eh. There we go. You ran 9 flash drives through a clothes washer? Wow. That is a special kind of talent. Notes that pile up. Yeah, I mean, mine are just, like I said, the script files, but I also have post-it notes, like, all over the place. I have 3 post-it notes stuck to my second monitor right now. I have a little stack of post-it note paper next to me. This note I don't need anymore, actually. Hold on. We're going to clean up a little bit while we're talking. Let's see. That I still need. Okay. Do I still need this one? Maybe. Keep that one over here. This I also need. Put that over there. Throw that away. Look at that. We're cleaning up our desk. How productive are we? VTubers can't stretch. I have no idea what that means, but I assure you we can. Unless we're in a back brace or something. Okay. Some flash drives are water resistant. I mean, I still don't want to rely on a flash drive. It's funny because when I was in school, just this past semester in the city, I had this extremely elderly guy who was teaching one of the classes, one of the design classes. And to look at him, you wouldn't think he was tech savvy, like at all. You really wouldn't. But this guy not only knew his shit on the software that we were using, but he had nothing but disdain for flash drives. He was like, use the cloud, that's what it's for. You can access it from anywhere. Flash drives are constantly getting lost. You guys don't even know, like, don't rely on incredibly unreliable portable storage. Just use the cloud. And we're like, damn, this guy's like, I loved that guy to death. He was great. And he liked me because I already knew the software. That goes the Patreon. It's okay right now. We hit 300, so I can breathe a little. I'm hoping we can keep it there. I'm hoping you guys think it's worth keeping there. I'm hoping that like as the channel grows, so can the Patreon. Like that's the point, right? Like we can all kind of grow together, and then I can do more cool shit for you. Like I would love to do more of the vlogging stuff. I'd love to get like a good camera to do that, so we could like go on real world adventures. But you know, first things first. One thing at a time. There's a lot I want to do. Yeah, I always do multiple redundant backups. I save things in different places. I've got usually local backups and then also the cloud, just in case. I actually just backed up my entire laptop the other day. Just because. Onto an external hard drive. So, pay monthly for the cloud. If you have a Gmail account, you get a certain amount of storage just with that. I'm not paying for it. I've never had any issues. I mean, I realize nothing is perfect, ever. But I have never had any issues moving files back and forth around various clouds. It's honestly been the best way to send files to people. Like when I share document with somebody, or recently another VA asked me to do some guest work for him, and I was able to just, send him the link to the Google Drive. I uploaded the audio there rather than try to like attach it to an email or something. So, okay, I think we should probably wrap up. I think now would be a good time to do that. So, we're going to transition over to this screen, which is going to take forever. And then, yeah. So tomorrow I'll be on Twitch for, I think, Patron Pick Game Nights tomorrow. Yeah, Patron Pick Game Nights tomorrow. Looks like I'll be playing Stray based on the current vote. But if you're a patron on Patreon, you can go vote. Right now, the poll is still open for what game you want me to play. Every week I ask you guys what games to suggest. You suggest games, I put them in the poll, you vote. That makes it patron pick at every level. And yeah, so thank you guys for hanging out. This was a lot of fun, as always. We'll do it again in 2 weeks. And until then, be good. I'll talk to you soon.